The massive crystal chamber floated in space around Centauri Prime, its walls gleaming with light from the nearby star. Inside, 12 different alien species sat in a circle, their forms strange and varied. Some looked like giant snakes with arms. Others resembled walking trees with too many eyes. A few appeared to be made of pure energy, shifting and glowing in their seats. Commander Jake Morrison sat at a small table in the center of the chamber. His dark blue uniform bore the flag of Earth, and his hands rested calmly on the metal surface. Despite the nervous energy he felt inside, next to him Ambassador Lisa Carter adjusted her glasses and looked through her notes one more time. They had traveled 3 months to reach this place, hoping to gain membership in the Galactic Council for Humanity. The snake-like creature at the head of the circle raised itself higher. Its scales shimmered green and gold, and when it spoke, its voice filled the chamber with a deep, rumbling sound. "We are here to discuss the application of the species called humans," Ambassador Kethville announced. His forked tongue flicked out as he continued. "These creatures from the planet they call Earth seek to join our council." A ripple of what might have been laughter moved through the chamber. The tree-like being swayed its branches, creating a rustling sound. The energy creatures pulsed with colors that Jake's translator device said meant amusement. "Tell us again about their technology," said High Counselor Zexthera, an Arcturian whose blue skin seemed to glow with inner light. Her 6 arms moved gracefully as she gestured toward the humans. "How many ships do they possess?" Jake stood up slowly. "Earth's fleet consists of 47 interstellar vessels. We have been exploring space for nearly 100 years and have established colonies on 12 worlds." The chamber erupted in sounds that needed no translation. The snake being's hissing mixed with the clicking of insect mandibles from the hive queen. Even the aquatic nereid, in its water-filled sphere, seemed to bubble with what looked like laughter. 47 ships, repeated Kethville, his voice dripping. "With scorn, the Zephyrian Empire alone maintains a fleet of over 10,000 vessels. The smallest member of this council operates more ships than your entire species." Ambassador Carter stood beside Jake. "Numbers are not everything, honored counselors. Humanity has shown remarkable adaptability and innovation in our short time among the stars. We believe we can contribute valuable perspectives to the galactic community." The Hive Queen's mandibles clicked rapidly. Her translator rendered her sounds into words. "These mammals speak of innovation, yet they still use chemical rockets for propulsion. Their weapons fire simple metal projectiles. They have not even mastered basic energy manipulation. Their wars added the Luxari energy, being its form shifting from blue to red as it spoke. These humans have spent centuries fighting among themselves. They poisoned their own planet with industrial waste. They show no signs of wisdom or maturity." Jake felt his jaw tighten, but kept his voice steady. "Every species goes through growing pains. We have learned from our mistakes and worked to correct them. Our recent history shows increasing cooperation in environmental restoration." The Nereid's voice bubbled through its translator. "Growing pains that lasted millennia. Most species achieve unity within a few centuries of developing technology. You humans required over 2,000 years to stop major conflicts among yourselves." "And they still haven't stopped completely," observed Zexthera. "Our intelligence reports show ongoing disputes over resources and territory. These creatures are fundamentally tribal." Kethville raised his serpentine head higher. "Let us examine their military capabilities more closely." "Ambassador Morrison, describe your most powerful warship." Jake straightened his shoulders. "Our flagship, the UES Defiance, is equipped with fusion-powered engines, quantum communication arrays, and advanced defensive systems. She carries a crew of 800 and serves as the command vessel for our defense fleet." The silence that followed was somehow worse than the laughter had been. Finally, the Hive Queen spoke. "Fusion power, how quaint. You abandoned such primitive energy sources before your species learned to make fire. Their defensive systems," chuckled the Luxari, "consist of metal plating and electromagnetic barriers. Children's toys compared to our quantum shields." Zexthera leaned forward in her seat. "Tell me, humans, what is your fastest method of travel between star systems?" "We use hyperspace tunnels generated by our jump drives," Lisa answered. "We're Fastest ships can travel up to 50 light-years per day. It's time the laughter was loud enough to shake the crystal walls. The snake beings hissing mixed with insectoid clicking and aquatic bubbling to create a symphony of mockery. 50 light-years per day, Kethvel repeated slowly. My personal transport vessel can cross the galaxy in less time than it takes your fastest ship to reach your nearest colony. Perhaps, suggested the Nereid, these humans should return to their little corner of space and practice basic civilization for another 1,000 years. Maybe then they will have developed beyond throwing rocks at each other. Jake's hands clenched into fists at his sides, but his voice remained calm. We may be younger than your species, but we have proven ourselves capable of rapid advancement. In just 1 century, we went from our first orbital flight to establishing colonies across multiple star systems. Yes, agreed Zexthura with false sweetness. Rapid advancement from stone tools to slightly better stone tools. The Hive Queen clicked her mandibles in what Jake was beginning to recognize as their version of a sneer. These mammals believe the speed of development matters more than actual achievement. They are proud of reaching the level of technology we mastered millions of years ago. It shows their potential, Lisa insisted. Given time and guidance, humanity could become a valuable member of the galactic community. Time and guidance, mused the Luxari. Yes. Perhaps in several million years after evolution has worked its way through their primitive neural structure, they might develop beyond their current barbarian state. Kethvel rose to his full height, towering over the human delegates. The Galactic Council has reached its decision. Humanity's application for membership is postponed indefinitely. We suggest you return to your worlds and focus on basic civilization. Perhaps in 1,000 years you will have evolved enough to warrant another consideration. The other council members signaled their agreement through various species-specific gestures. The Arcturians glowed brighter, the Hive Queen's wings buzzed, and the energy beings pulsed in synchronized patterns. This session is concluded, Kethval announced. The humans will be escorted to their ship and may depart at their convenience. Jake and Lisa gathered their materials in silence, the weight of rejection heavy on their shoulders. As they prepared to leave, the sound of quiet conversation resumed among the council members, punctuated by occasional bursts of what was clearly continued mockery. They had almost reached the chamber's exit when Quantum Communicator chimed. Softly, he glanced at the device and saw an encrypted message from Earth Defense Command. The priority level made his blood run cold. Lisa, he whispered urgently, we need to get back to the ship immediately. She looked at him with concern. What is it? Jake's voice was barely audible as they stepped into the corridor. Long-range sensors have detected a massive fleet approaching human space.
Oh, whoa.
The composition matches vessels from multiple Galactic Council species. As they walked quickly toward their shuttle, the sounds of alien laughter still echoed from the chamber behind them. The species that had just rejected humanity's peaceful application for membership were apparently preparing to deliver a much more direct message about their place in the galaxy. The irony was not lost on Jake as they hurried through the crystal corridors. The Council had mocked humanity's small fleet and primitive weapons, yet they were apparently taking no chances. With their response to the upstart species from Earth, 3 weeks had passed since the humiliating rejection at Centauri Prime. Captain Ben Rogers stood on the bridge of the UES Defiance, staring at the tactical display that showed dots of light moving across a 3-dimensional star map. Each dot represented an enemy ship, and there were far too many of them. How many are we looking at now? He asked his tactical officer. Lieutenant Commander Steve Walsh tapped his console, updating the numbers. 312 confirmed contacts. Captain. The formation includes Zephyrian dreadnoughts, Arcturian battle cruisers, Nereid destroyers, and what appear to be Hive assault carriers. Ben rubbed his jaw, feeling the stubble that had grown during the sleepless night since the alien fleet had been detected. Time to intercept? At their current speed, they'll reach the outer colonies in 60 hours, Walsh replied. The lead elements are already past the neutral zone. The bridge fell silent except for the quiet hum of the ship's systems. Every officer knew what those numbers meant. The entire human fleet consisted of 47 ships, and most of those were exploratory vessels or light patrol craft. They were facing odds of nearly 7-1 against species with technology that was centuries ahead of their own. On Earth, Admiral Helen Brooks sat at the head of a long table in the underground command center beneath Geneva. The room was filled with the top military leaders from every human colony and nation. The holographic display in the center of the table showed the same grim picture that Captain Rogers was studying aboard the Defiance. "Ladies and gentlemen," Admiral Brooks began, her voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. "Our long-range sensors have confirmed what we feared. A massive alien armada is approaching human space with clear hostile intent." General Paul Martinez, commander of the Mars Defense Force, leaned forward. "What do we know about their capabilities, Doctor?" Alan Pierce, a thin man with graying hair, activated his datapad. As Earth's leading expert on alien technology, he had spent years studying the scraps of information available about the Galactic Council species. "The Zephyrians favor direct assault tactics," he explained. "Their ships are heavily armored and carry weapons that fire concentrated plasma bursts. A single hit from their main guns can destroy one of our frigates." He touched his datapad again, and new images appeared on the display. "The Arcturians use energy-based weapons that can slice through our hull plating like it's made of paper. Their ships are faster than ours and carry advanced targeting systems." Admiral Brooks nodded grimly. "What about the others?" "The Nereid vessels have shielding technology we've never been able to understand, let alone duplicate. Our missiles and projectile weapons simply bounce off their defensive barriers, and the Hive ships." Dr. Pierce paused, looking uncomfortable. "The Hive ships are designed for swarm tactics. They'll surround our vessels and attack from all directions at once." The room filled with quiet murmurs as the military leaders absorbed this information. Colonel Nancy Foster from the Europa Defense Corps spoke up. "What are our options, Admiral?" Brooks stood and walked to the display. "We have 47 ships total. 31 are combat capable, though most are light patrol vessels. We have 16 colonies that need protection, spread across 12 star systems." She touched the hologram, highlighting key defensive positions. "We can concentrate our fleet for a single decisive battle, or spread our forces to protect as many colonies as possible." "If we spread out, we'll be defeated piecemeal," observed General Martinez. "If we concentrate, we abandon most of our colonies to certain destruction," replied Colonel Foster. Dr. Pierce cleared his throat. "There's another factor to consider. Intelligence suggests this fleet is commanded by Admiral Kethfall, the same Zephyrian who led the mockery at the council meeting. This isn't just a military operation for them. It's a demonstration." "What do you mean?" asked Brooks. "They want to make an example of us. Show the galaxy what happens to species that dare to challenge the established order. They're not just planning to defeat us. They want to humiliate us." The weight of that statement settled over the room like a heavy blanket. They weren't just facing military defeat. They were looking at the complete destruction of everything humanity had built among the stars. Admiral Brooks activated the global communication system. Within minutes, her image was being broadcast to every human settlement from Earth to the outer colonies. "Citizens of Earth and the colonial worlds," she began, "I must inform you that our peaceful diplomatic mission to the Galactic Council has failed. More than that, a hostile alien fleet is now approaching our space with the clear intention of attacking our colonies." The announcement caused panic in cities across human space. On Earth, people gathered around public screens, their faces pale with fear. On Mars, the great domed cities began evacuation procedures, loading civilians onto transport ships. The mining stations of the asteroid belt went dark, their crews fleeing toward the inner system. But not everyone ran. On the frontier, world of New Texas, Governor Bobby Tucker stood before his colonial assembly and declared that anyone who wanted to fight could stay. On Europa, the ice miners formed volunteer militias. Even on peaceful New Geneva, known for its universities and research centers, citizens lined up to help build defensive positions. Back on the bridge of the Defiance, Captain Rogers received reports from across human space. Some were encouraging. The civilian evacuation was proceeding faster than expected, and volunteer forces were forming on many worlds. Others were less hopeful. The merchant fleet had scattered, leaving supply lines cut. Several outer colonies had gone completely silent. Captain called his communications officer, Lieutenant Sarah Kim. "We're receiving a transmission from the alien fleet. Put it through." The main screen flickered, then showed the scaled face of Admiral Kethval. His serpentine features were twisted in what might have been a smile, and his yellow eyes gleamed with satisfaction. "Humans of Earth," the alien commander began, his voice carrying the same mocking tone they remembered from the council chamber. "You have exactly 72 hours to surrender unconditionally. Disable your weapons, power down your ships, and prepare to submit to Galactic Council authority." He paused, letting the silence stretch. "If you comply, your deaths will be quick. If you resist, we will make your final hours last considerably longer." The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. "Charming fellow," muttered Lieutenant Walsh. Captain Rogers turned to his crew. "All hands, this is the captain. I won't lie to you about our situation. We're outgunned, outnumbered, and facing technology we can barely understand. But we're not giving up." He looked around the bridge, meeting the eyes of each officer. "Every human in space is counting on us to buy them time. Time to evacuate civilians. Time to prepare defenses. Time for our scientists to maybe find something that can help." The ship's intercommunication system crackled as he addressed the entire crew. "This is what we trained for. This is why we wear the uniform. We stand between our people and those who would destroy them." On the tactical display, the alien fleet continued its relentless advance toward human space. The dots of light moved with mechanical precision, representing hundreds of ships filled with creatures who saw humans as nothing more than an infestation to be cleaned up. But among the asteroids of the outer system, in hidden facilities that didn't appear on any official charts, other preparations were being made. Projects that had been theoretical for decades were suddenly being rushed toward completion. Scientists who had been mocked by their peers for pursuing impossible theories were now being asked if their wild ideas might actually work. The alien fleet approached with overwhelming confidence, certain that their technological superiority would make this a simple extermination operation. They had no way of knowing that human desperation was about to drive innovation in directions that their advanced civilizations had never considered. The alien fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler system like a swarm of deadly insects. 312 ships materialized in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming with strange metals and pulsing energy fields. At the center of the armada, the massive Zephyrian flagship Dominator stretched nearly 2 kilometers from bow to stern. On the bridge of his command ship, Admiral Kethval studied the tactical display with satisfaction. The human colony world of Kepler Prime hung before them like a ripe fruit, defended by only 12 small warships. The odds were so heavily in his favor that this would barely qualify as a battle. "Open a channel to the human defenders," he ordered his communications officer. The signal reached Captain Ben Rogers aboard the UES Defiance, where he stood with his small flotilla of human ships. Rogers looked at the overwhelming force arrayed against him and felt his stomach tighten, but his voice remained steady when he activated the response channel. "This is Captain Rogers of the United Earth ship Defiance. State your intentions." Kethval's serpentine face appeared on the human ship's main screen. "I am Admiral Kethval of the Zephyrian Empire, commanding this galactic enforcement fleet. You will surrender immediately and prepare to be boarded. Resistance will result in the complete destruction of your pathetic vessels and the extermination of every human in this system." Rogers looked around his bridge at the young faces of his crew. These men and women had volunteered to stand between their people and annihilation, knowing full well they probably wouldn't survive. He thought of the 2 million colonists on Kepler Prime below, frantically loading evacuation ships even as this conversation took place. "Negative, Admiral. We will not surrender. If you want this system, you'll have to take it." The alien commander's laughter was a harsh, hissing sound. "So be it. You have chosen extinction." The channel closed and Kethval turned to his tactical officer. "Begin the demonstration. Show these primitives what happens when they defy their betters." The first wave of the attack came from the Arcturian battlecruisers, their energy weapons charged with a high-pitched whine that somehow carried through the vacuum of space. Brilliant blue-white beams lanced out from their forward arrays, each one carrying enough power to melt through a mountain. The human destroyer, Hugh's Courage, took the first hit directly on her port side. The alien energy beams sliced through the ship's armor plating like a hot knife through butter, cutting completely through the vessel and out the other side. The destroyer broke apart in a shower of metal fragments and escaping atmosphere. Her crew of 200 lost in an instant. Evasive maneuvers. Rogers shouted into his communicator. All ships scatter and attack. But the human ships were too slow and their weapons too primitive. The Nereid vessels demonstrated their advanced shielding technology as human missiles struck their hulls and simply vanished. Absorbed by energy barriers that flickered blue around each alien ship, the UES Vigilant tried to close distance with a Zephyrian cruiser, firing her main guns in a desperate attempt to inflict damage. The kinetic rounds struck the alien ship's hull and bounced off harmlessly, leaving only small scratches on armor that had been forged with technology beyond human understanding. In response, the Zephyrian ship fired a single plasma bolt. The superheated gas struck the Vigilant amidships and melted through her hull in seconds. The human frigate's fusion reactor went critical, and she vanished in a brief, brilliant explosion. On the surface of Kepler Prime, Governor Matt Collins stood in the emergency command center, watching the space battle unfold on the orbital tracking screens. Each blinking light that disappeared from the display represented hundreds of human lives lost in the defense of his world. "How many evacuation ships have launched?" he asked his aide. 47 so far, Governor." "That's about 800,000 people. But we need at least 6 more hours to get everyone off the planet." Collins watched another human ship die on the screen. "Our defenders are buying us that time with their lives." In space, the battle continued its predictable course. The insectoid hive ships moved like a school of predatory fish, surrounding the remaining human vessels. Their smaller size made them harder targets, but they attacked in coordinated swarms that overwhelmed human point defense systems. The UES Intrepid found herself surrounded by 8 hive fighters. Captain Linda Torres ordered her crew to prepare for ramming speed, knowing her ship was doomed but determined to take at least one enemy with her. But the alien ships were too fast, dancing around the human vessel like gnats around a lamp, firing energy weapons that slowly carved the Intrepid apart piece by piece. The Luxari energy beings joined the attack, their ship forms shifting and flowing as they unleashed weapons that human science couldn't even identify. Streams of pure force struck the human ships, causing systems to fail randomly as exotic energy fields interfered with human technology. Captain Rogers watched his small fleet being systematically destroyed. In 30 minutes of combat, he had lost 8 ships and gained nothing in return. Not one alien vessel showed even minor damage from human weapons. "Captain," his tactical officer reported, "the UES Defiant and the UES Guardian are requesting permission to withdraw. They're both showing critical damage." Rogers clenched his jaw. Every instinct told him to order the retreat, to save what remained of his command. But those evacuation ships on Kepler Prime needed more time. Negative. "All ships continue the attack. Fight until your last breath." The alien fleet pressed their advantage with casual cruelty. It could have ended the battle in minutes, but Admiral Kethful was enjoying the demonstration too much. He wanted to show the galaxy exactly what happened. 2 species that dared challenge Galactic Council authority. "Target their engines, not their life support," he ordered. "Let them drift helplessly while they contemplate their foolishness." The next wave of attacks was precisely calculated. Alien weapons struck human ships in specific locations, disabling their propulsion systems while leaving the crews alive too. Experience their helplessness. The remaining human vessels found themselves unable to maneuver, sitting targets for the overwhelming alien force. But in the asteroid belt at the edge of the Kepler system, something strange happened. Among the chunks of rock and ice that drifted in the darkness, a brief distortion appeared in space itself. For just a moment, something bent light around it in a way that shouldn't have been possible according to known physics. The alien sensors, focused on their overwhelming victory against the human fleet, registered the distortion as nothing more than background radiation from the destroyed human ships. Their advanced detection systems, designed to track conventional vessels, completely missed the subtle signature of something that operated on entirely different principles. The distortion vanished as quickly as it had appeared, leaving no trace of its presence. On the surface of Kepler Prime, the evacuation continued under the protection of the dying human fleet. Ship after ship launched from the spaceports, carrying civilians to safety, while the military forces above sacrificed themselves to buy time. Governor Collins watched the tactical display as the last human defenders fought their hopeless battle. The EU's Defiance was the final ship to fall. Captain Rogers stood on his bridge as alien fire overwhelmed his shields and tore through his hull. Emergency lights cast red shadows across the command center as systems failed one by one. "This is Captain Rogers to Kepler Prime," he transmitted on his final broadcast. "We have bought you all the time we can. Get our people to safety." The transmission ended as the Defiance broke apart under concentrated fire from 6 alien vessels. Admiral Kethfall surveyed the debris field that had once been the human defense fleet. 12 ships destroyed, over 3,000 humans dead, and not a single alien casualty. The demonstration had been perfect. He opened a channel to the planet below. "Humans of Kepler Prime, you have seen the fate of those who resist. You have 48 hours to surrender completely or face the same destruction." The alien fleet took up orbit around the colony world, confident in their complete superiority. They had no way of knowing that something had been watching there, every move, recording their tactics and capabilities. Something that didn't show up on their sensors despite being close enough to count the rivets on their hulls. Deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, in a facility that existed in no official records, Dr. Emma Watson worked frantically at a computer terminal that hummed with barely contained energy. The laboratory around her looked like something from a science fiction movie, filled with strange devices that bent light around their edges and made the air itself shimmer. For 15 years, she had been the head of the Phantom Project, humanity's most classified research program. While the rest of the scientific community focused on improving existing technology, Emma and her small team had been chasing theories that most physicists considered impossible. The elevator at the far end of the lab opened with a soft chime. Admiral Helen Brooks stepped out, followed by 2 security guards who remained by the entrance. The Admiral's face was grim as she walked between the strange machines toward Emma's workstation. "Dr. Watson," Brooks said, "I need to know if your project is ready." Emma looked up from her calculations, her eyes red from sleepless nights. "Admiral, what we've built here breaks every rule of physics that the galactic community understands. The mathematics alone took us 12 years to work out." She gestured toward the center of the laboratory, where a sleek black ship hung suspended in an invisible energy field. The vessel was small, barely 30 meters long, and its surface seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. "This is Shadow 1, Emma explained as they walked toward the craft. "She represents humanity's greatest scientific achievement and our most dangerous gamble." Admiral Brooks studied the strange ship. "Explain how it works, Doctor, in simple terms." Emma activated a holographic display that showed swirling patterns of energy around a ship-shaped outline. Every known form of detection relies on some type of energy signature. Radar, LiDAR, gravitational sensors, thermal imaging, even quantum field detectors. So they all look for disturbances in the normal fabric of space. The display changed, showing the same ship outline, but now completely invisible to the detection systems. Our breakthrough came from approaching the problem backwards. Instead of trying to hide from sensors, we found a way to make our ship exist. In a slightly different phase of reality, we manipulate quantum field fluctuations to create a bubble where normal physics don't quite apply. Brooks frowned. "That sounds impossible." "Should be," Emma agreed. "According to galactic science, what we've done can't work. Their accumulated knowledge of millions of years says that matter can't exist in quantum superposition at a macro scale. But humans never learned those rules." She led the Admiral closer to the suspended vessel. "We approached quantum mechanics from completely different angles than the established galactic theories. While they built on millions of years of accepted science, We started fresh. Sometimes ignorance is an advantage. A section of the ship's hull opened silently, revealing a cramped interior designed for a crew of 5. Emma climbed aboard, motioning for Brooks to follow. "The phase generators are here," she said, pointing to cylindrical devices that lined the ship's interior walls. When activated, they create a quantum field that renders the entire vessel undetectable. We can move through space like ghosts. "About weapons?" Brooks asked. Emma smiled for the first time since the Admiral's arrival. "That's where things get really interesting." She activated another display, showing the ship's weapon systems. Conventional weapons, fire projectiles, or energy beams that exist in normal space. They can be blocked by shields or armor. But our quantum phase cannon fires bursts that exist in the same shifted reality as our ship. The display showed a beam passing through shield barriers and armor plating as if they weren't there. The energy phases through enemy defenses and strikes directly at internal systems. Their shields can't stop something that exists in a different quantum state. Brooks nodded slowly. "What are the limitations?" Emma's expression grew serious. "The power requirements are enormous. It can only maintain the quantum phase for a few hours before the generators overload. The ship can only carry 5 people. Maximum because of space limitations. And most importantly," she paused, meeting the Admiral's eyes, "only have 1 prototype. There wasn't time to build more, and even if there was, the rare elements needed for the phase generators are almost impossible to find." They climbed back down to the laboratory floor, where other technicians were running final checks on various systems. Admiral Brooks watched the controlled chaos of last-minute preparations. "Who's the crew?" she asked. "Captain Alex Turner," Emma replied. "He's been training on Shadow 1 for 3 years. Psychological profiles show he's stable under extreme stress and has excellent tactical instincts." A tall man with graying hair approached them. His uniform bore the insignia of a test pilot, and his calm demeanor suggested someone comfortable. "With danger, Admiral Brooks," Captain Turner said, saluting. "I'm ready to take Shadow 1 into combat. Tell me about your team, Captain." Turner gestured toward 4 other figures working at different stations around the ship. Navigator Rachel Martinez, our best stellar cartographer. Weapons Specialist Chris Johnson, who helped design the phase cannon system. Engineer Sam Davis, who knows every bolt and wire in this ship. And Communications Officer Amy Rodriguez, who speaks 12 alien languages. Each crew member looked up and nodded as their name was mentioned. Despite the desperate situation, Brooks was impressed by their calm professionalism. "What's your mission profile?" the Admiral asked. Emma pulled up another holographic display, this one showing the alien fleet as it approached Earth. "Long range. Sensors indicate the enemy uses quantum-entangled communication networks to coordinate their fleet movements. Every ship is connected to a central command node aboard their flagship." The display highlighted the massive Zephorian vessel at the center of the alien formation. "If we can destroy that command node, the entire fleet will lose coordination. 300 ships will suddenly become 300 separate targets, unable to work together effectively." Captain Turner stepped forward. "Shadow 1 will approach the enemy flagship while phased. We'll position ourselves directly behind their command center and fire the phase cannon at point-blank range. The quantum burst will pass through their shields and armor," Emma added. "It should overload their central command systems and collapse the network that holds their fleet together." Admiral Brooks studied the tactical display. The plan was audacious and relied on technology that shouldn't exist, according to galactic science. But it was also humanity's only hope. "Dr. Watson," she said finally, "this is the most advanced piece of technology our species has ever created. Are you confident it will work?" Emma looked at her life's work, impossible ship that represented humanity's leap into theoretical physics that the rest of the galaxy considered fantasy. "Admiral, 3 weeks ago, the Galactic Council rejected our application for membership because they considered us primitive barbarians. They laughed at our technology and mocked our capabilities." She turned to face Brooks directly. "They measured us by their own standards and found us wanting. Well, but their standards are based on millions of years of following the same scientific principles. We've had the freedom to explore ideas they never considered. The quantum field generators hummed softly as the ship's systems came online for final testing. Strange energies played across the vessel's hull, bending light in ways that made it difficult to focus on. The Galactic Council thinks they understand the limits of what's possible, Emma continued. They're about to learn that humans don't accept limits. Admiral Brooks authorized the mission with a simple nod. Around the laboratory, the crew of Shadow 1 began their final preparations for a mission that would either save humanity or end it. The alien fleet approaching Earth had no idea that their dismissal of human capabilities was about to become their greatest weakness. The alien armada entered the Sol system like a plague of metal locusts, their massive ships blotting out the stars. Admiral Kethfell stood on the bridge of his flagship Dominator, watching the pitiful human fleet gathered near Earth. 35. Ships barely enough to crew a single one of his battle groups. Look at them, he hissed to his tactical officer. These pathetic mammals have assembled their entire remaining fleet for one final, hopeless gesture. The Zephyrian Admiral's serpentine features twisted in what passed for a smile among his species. Behind him, the bridge crew went about their duties with casual efficiency. This would be less of a battle and more of an extermination. 300 ships took up attack positions in perfect formation. The massive Zephyrian dreadnoughts moved to the front, their weapon systems charging with deadly energy. Arcturian battle cruisers flanked them, their hulls glowing with the power of their energy weapons. Nereid destroyers activated their impenetrable shields, while Hive assault carriers released swarms of smaller attack craft near Earth. Admiral Helen Brooks watched the approaching doom from the bridge of the UES Liberty. She knew this battle was hopeless, but every minute they fought was another minute for civilian evacuations to continue. Across the inner system, transport ships fled toward the outer colonies carrying as many people as they could save. All ships. She broadcast to the human fleet, "Remember why we're here? We stand between our families and extinction. Make every shot count." The space battle began, with the aliens unleashing their devastating firepower. Plasma bolts from the Zephyrian ships tore through human vessels like paper. Energy beams from the Arcarians sliced destroyers in half. The Nereid ships advanced under their protective shields, deflecting human missiles harmlessly into space. But hidden among the asteroids of the outer system, something that shouldn't exist was making its final approach. Shadow 1 moved through space like a ghost, invisible to every sensor the alien fleet possessed. Captain Alex Turner guided his ship between the massive enemy vessels, so close he could see individual hull markings through the viewports. Phase. Generators holding steady, reported engineer Sam Davis from his station, were completely undetectable. Navigator Rachel Martinez checked her instruments. "Approaching the flagship now, Captain. The Dominator is 2 kilometers directly ahead." In the main battle, the human fleet was being systematically destroyed. Ship after ship disappeared in brilliant explosions as alien weapons found their targets. The UES Courage, UES Determination, use Hope. Each name that went dark on the tactical display represented hundreds of human lives lost in defense of their homeworld. Admiral Kethfell watched the slaughter with satisfaction.
These creatures should
"Have accepted our generous offer of quick death. Now they will suffer for their defiance." He opened a communication channel to the remaining human ships. "Admiral Brooks, you have lost half your fleet in 10 minutes. Surrender now, and I may allow some of your crew to live as slaves." Brooks's reply came back immediately. "We'll never surrender to murderers like you." The Zephyrian Admiral's laughter was a harsh, scraping sound. "Then watch your species die ship by ship." But Captain Turner wasn't watching the main battle. His attention was focused entirely on the massive alien flagship that filled his view screen. The Dominator stretched nearly 2 kilometers from bow. Too stern, bristling with weapons and armor that could withstand anything in the human arsenal. "Weapons Specialist Johnson," Turner said quietly, "target the command center. Full power to the phase cannon." Chris Johnson's hands moved across his control panel with practiced precision. "Phase cannon charged and ready, Captain. We're in position for point-blank range." Dr. Watson had explained that the alien fleet relied on quantum-entangled communication networks to coordinate their movements. Every ship was connected to a central command node aboard the flagship. Destroy that node, and 300 coordinated vessels would become 300 confused individual targets. Communications Officer Rodriguez Turner continued, "Prepare to broadcast on all frequencies when I give the signal." Amy Rodriguez nodded, her fingers poised over her communication controls. "Ready, Captain?" Turner looked around at his crew. These 4 people represented humanity's last hope, carrying technology that the rest of the galaxy believed was impossible. For a moment, he thought about the absurdity of it all. 5 humans in a ship the size of a shuttle, preparing to take on an armada that had just destroyed half of Earth's fleet. "Time to show them what human ingenuity can accomplish," he said. "Decloak and fire." Shadow 1 materialized directly behind the Dominator's command tower like a demon appearing from thin air. The sudden appearance of the small human ship sent shockwaves through the alien bridge crew. Impossible readings flooded. Their sensors, as something that shouldn't exist, became visible right on top of them. Admiral Kethfell spun toward his tactical officer. Where did that ship come from? But before anyone could answer, the phase cannon fired. The quantum energy burst past through the Dominator's shields as if they weren't there. It phased through the ship's armor plating like light passing through glass. The exotic energy struck directly at the quantum-entangled communication array at the heart of the alien command network. The effect was immediate and catastrophic. The quantum entanglement that linked 300 ships across multiple light-years collapsed in a cascade failure. Command links died, targeting systems went offline, coordination protocols crashed throughout the entire fleet. Suddenly, the precisely orchestrated alien armada became a collection of confused individual ships. Vessels collided as their automated formation controls failed. Weapons platforms fired randomly without proper target coordination. The perfect battle formation dissolved into chaos. Captain Turner activated the communication system. "This is Captain Alex Turner of the Earth ship Shadow 1, broadcasting to the Galactic Council fleet." His voice carried across every frequency, reaching every ship in both fleets. "You underestimated humanity because you measured us by your own limitations. You followed the same scientific principles for millions of years and assumed those were the only principles that mattered." On the bridge of the Dominator, Admiral Kethfell stared at the impossible readings on his screens. His ship's quantum field detectors showed energies that shouldn't exist. His communication array was completely dead, cut off from the rest of his fleet. "But humans don't accept that something is impossible just because you say it is," Turner continued. "We don't follow your rules. We don't think like you. And we sure as hell don't surrender to bullies who think technology makes them superior to everyone else." The human fleet, though still outnumbered, suddenly found themselves facing disorganized and vulnerable opponents. Ships that had seemed invincible minutes before now drifted helplessly. Their crews struggling to restore basic systems, Admiral Brooks seized the opportunity. "All ships, target the disabled vessels. Show them what happens when they underestimate human determination." The tide of battle turned as human weapons found their marks against confused alien ships. The Zephyrian formation broke apart as individual. Captains tried to restore order without central coordination. Arcturian energy platforms fired at empty space. Their targeting systems, unable to lock onto human vessels without network support. The Nereid ships discovered that their advanced shields meant nothing when they couldn't coordinate with their fleet. Isolated and confused, they became easy targets for concentrated human fire. The hive carriers found their swarm tactics useless without the command network that had guided their attack patterns. Within an hour, seemingly unstoppable, alien armada was in full retreat. Ships fled in random directions, their commanders more concerned with escaping than fighting. The species that had mocked humanity as primitive barbarians now ran from the very enemies they had dismissed. "Captain." Turner guided Shadow 1 back toward the human fleet, the phase generators finally powering down after their successful mission. Around them, the wreckage of alien ships drifted through space. Proof that technological superiority meant nothing without the wisdom to use it properly. The Galactic Council would never again make the mistake of underestimating the species from the small blue planet in the outer rim. Humanity had earned their place among the stars, not through superior weapons or ancient wisdom, but through the one thing that had always defined them: the refusal to accept that anything was truly impossible.